My name's Nathan, this is Backpacker-ish. One of the ways that I want this channel to help kind of make backpacking more accessible is to give people a sense and an idea of where they can go and what to expect when they get there. So with that in mind, let's take a look at this loop I did of Gorge Creek in Bluerock Wildland Provincial Park. My original plan for this loop was actually to take this clockwise on day one. So I'd start off at the parking lot and run all the way around here to Threepoint Campground. And that would have taken me up this ascent basically on day one, and day two would have been kind of puttering around and then a steep descent. Now that didn't actually happen because I missed this turn. I'm just leaving the parking lot. I think I got about 12 or 13 kilometers till the Threepoint Campground, and it's muddy. It's wet and muddy. It appears that I've missed my turn. I missed a left somewhere, and as a result, I'm going the opposite direction I planned through the along the loop, which means that today I get a huge elevation gain all in one big step, where I have to climb Volcano Ridge or South Volcano Ridge before I get a nice little decline to my camp. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it'll be a good test for this pack. And it's okay, because it's still just a trail. Now, had I been checking my map more often, I would have known I went the wrong way. The only reason I flagged it in my brain was because the last time I was here, there weren't that many bridges. The day one plan really changed for me, and it kind of breaks into a few parts. The first part is from that trailhead to this junction, and that there's not much to that. It kind of drops you down from 1,600 meters. You get back into essentially where you wanted to start as far as elevation goes. There's not much there. It's about 2.5 kilometers, right? The next part of that is actually the ascent up South Volcano Ridge. Now that 2 kilometers is a lot more work, because in that 2 kilometers you actually gain 300 meters of elevation, and that's a slog. I'm coming up on a junction of sorts where I can choose to go left and kind of ride a ridge kind of alongside over to the campground and avoid South Volcano, or I can go straight through up the volcano, up South Volcano Ridge. What I don't want to do is hang a right, because if I hang a right, it just brings me to another loop that's farther and then gets me back to the same spot. So I think, oh good, there's logs on this trail. I think at this junction, I'm gonna go up the loop, or up the ridge, I think. Whew. I'm in the mud. Because that will allow me to get the view I want on the ridge, even though it's gonna be steeper. But it looks like this is the junction. No, I wasn't. According to Gaia, you can go straight past that junction, and this trail will take you up the ridge and gain the elevation. That one will go around. That's the right way. The off to the right. This is the trail up. The one back there that I just passed that I would have gone the wrong way on was the one that would take me along the side. So this is the elevation gain. Here we go. We're at South Volcano Ridge, about 5 kilometers in, about 250 meters up. And this is the high point. We're 1950 meters. And this guy's wearing a towel. Goddamn right. Got about 7.5 kilometers left to go to get to Threepoint, and see you there.
Instead of running up Volcano Ridge the rest of the way and gaining all that elevation, what I chose to do was actually to drop down and hit this connecting link that would get me where I wanted to go. So that section is all downhill, and it's about 3.5 kilometers. There's not a lot to it. It runs kind of a long runoff. The trail is soaking wet along that section. There's just a lot of water on this trail that early in the year.
So climbing down that to get halfway down the hill was no fun. Whew. We were about 1.5 kilometers from South Volcano Ridge. We just passed a junction. You want to make sure you go the right way, because one way, if you take to the right, will take you to Volcano Ridge instead of South Volcano Ridge, which is not where I want to go. And then this next junction kind of has this nice little clearing at it. It's really pretty. But what I want to do is I want to go to the right and head down instead of going to the left, because the left will take you up Prospector's Ridge. And there's no connector to Threepoint from there. So I want to go down and around instead of up and over to get to the campground. Well, I've reached the point where I could split off, cross the creek, and head up to the ridge, or where I could continue on the trail and head towards my Threepoint Campground site, which basically just runs the side of Gorge Creek all the way up. Now, I think this is actually my trail and not Gorge Creek, because Gorge Creek is down there. So I'm pretty sure the trail's all runoff. I'm gonna see how this goes. Before I do that, I'm gonna try and get up the side maybe. See if there's a game trail that runs along the side of the hill that'll drop me back down after the runoff. After coming through that side, it looks like from here, the trail actually continues on the other side. So I'm gonna cross where, well, there's a log here. I don't know if I trust it. I'm gonna try it with my pole. I'm gonna cross here, and hopefully the trail stays dry from here on out. Sure is pretty though. Well, the log was floating. So I got a little more wet, but this is the trail right on the other side. There's a marker and everything, so I'm gonna keep going.
From that connector, it's about another 4 kilometers to get to Threepoint Campground. It's a decommissioned campsite in Bluerock Wildland Park, and it's got almost everything you need, exception of bare bins, but that's okay. That little jaunt from that connector to the campground is another 4 kilometers, and it runs a fairly gradual ascent. It's not extraneous, it's not backbreaking, but it is uphill and you are in the mountains.
Vince, you'd be proud to know she's still standing. Whew. Cobwebs. Time for some electrolytes.
Once you get to Threepoint Campground, from the direction that I'm now traveling, you've done about 12 kilometers of that loop. So it's not a long day. It's really 3-4 hours.
When you come to that junction where there's the Sheep River Equestrian Trail sign, stay to the left. To the right is Sheep River Equestrian Trail. So that'll take you somewhere. I don't know where it goes, but it's not the way to the campground. The campground, if you hang a left and then cross more water, is over there. Now that I'm all set up, let's give you a little tour. Here's home for the night. We got everything set up and ready to go. Not a far walk off is where I've got to hang my food. One of the differences to shave weight that I did was I brought a bear bag to hang instead of my air sack, because my air sack's a little heavier. Thankfully, this campground's got somewhere to hang some food. I'll have to figure out how I'm going to hang it, but somewhere to hang some food so I don't have to go fighting with throwing around trees and things like that. And then even better than the bear hang is the amazing outhouse. A campground that is decommissioned that has an actual outhouse, which is fantastic because that means that I don't have to dig a hole. And I don't like digging holes. So there's a bunch of other campgrounds or camp spots here. Not a ton of flat space. A lot of the flat space, I was surprised, is covered, I'll say, with remnants of horse. Right? So like this first campground you come to when you walk in has flat spot, horse poop. Horse poop, 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 horse poop. So it's a challenge to find a nice clean flat spot because the equestrian guys have kind of taken over here. But it's still a beautiful spot. The trail goes basically right past it. So that's where we came up right there. And this is where we'll head out tomorrow. And the campground's right there. There's a little storage box over here with some stuff in it. It's got a little baby saw, some toilet paper, pliers, water storage if you need it. And there's another side that someone's locked up. I'm not sure why, but it's decommissioned, so I guess anyone can lock anything up they want. They do have a sign that says you need to boil your water for 5 minutes. So the water is kind of an interesting color, but it's not bad. I filtered it, so I'm going to boil it anyway. And yeah, that's the campground. If you're looking to come here, it's beautiful.
When you wake up the next morning and you head out, you're going to have a little bit of ascent at the top of that, just to get you out of kind of where you are to finish up that hill. And then you're going to come to this junction. Now, I wasn't sure what to expect there because that trail, if I clear this off a little bit, continues this way and continues this way, but it's not marked. So there's actually a 4-way split that I didn't necessarily know which way to go. I had to check my map and make sure because it was a little confusing because it wasn't mapped out there. Anyways, the rest of that trip on day 2 on the way out is 11.5 kilometers, sorry, 11.4 kilometers, and it runs along Gorge Creek all the way back to the parking lot. This huge descent that would have been an ascent on day 1 is just a long descent on the way out with a couple little blips here and there.
Dry feet. Never mind. Your feet won't be dry. There's just no way. Just know that if you do this trail, the whole way back along Gorge Creek, he's in and out of Gorge Creek. So you might want to wait till it's not running quite as fast or as high. Because this is, I think, crossing number 9 this morning. I'm glad I got dry shoes in the car. I made it back to the car, and I'm using my last 2% battery to let you know that I survived. Now I'm gonna get changed and drive home, and then have a nice hot shower.
If you're planning to do this hike, you don't need to make reservations. The campground is decommissioned. There's no designated pads or any of that stuff that you need to worry about. What you do need to do, though, is to pick up a Kananaskis Conservation Pass so that you can basically enter and travel through the park. That pass is good for the vehicle and everybody in it, so if you're carpooling, going with friends, or doing any of that, that's all good. If you're interested in other places to go backpacking in southern Alberta, check this playlist out. Again, I'm Nathan. This is Backpacker-ish. Like, comment, subscribe, or don't, whatever.